even when we try to do the right thing, if we don't have good experiences, or if we don't meet with, medical professionals that are encouraging or that are advocating for us in the way that, are going to help us navigate through the process successfully, then it would be easy for us to get lost in the shuffle. I got extremely fortunate, and a few years after that, it really was a few years, I went back to my process of just taking more prednisone. A few years after that, I decided that enough was enough, and that I didn't want to just be like gaining a ton of weight and, living off of prednisone for the rest of my life and not really knowing like how I was going to function and survive. And, the fates were with me, and I did a quick Google search for rheumatology, again, living in Manhattan, and I found the best rheumatologist ever, and she's still my rheumatologist to this day. And I went and I met with her, and she connected with me, and she's amazing, and she referred me to an eye doctor who ultimately diagnosed me with the weirdo disease that I have after doing genetic testing. And it's a long, beautiful story after that. And I am on Remicade now in March of this year, it'll be 5 years that Remicade has been my wonder drug. And anyway, a lot has turned around for me clinically because I didn't give up. But also, I just sort of want to add in there that a couple of things. It's okay and it's totally normal for us to have these periods of time where we're not okay, first of all. Totally normal, totally okay to not be okay. Also, it's totally reasonable for us to cope in whatever ways we need to cope while we're coping. And that's just sort of a derivative of the quote that I always say on here, which is, say it with me, I always say it on here, which is, we should do whatever it is we need to do to get through whatever it is we're going through until that thing becomes a problem or part of the problem. So basically, like I said, if your extracurriculars are going out with your friends a little more often than maybe your health can handle, or if you're drinking a little bit more than you should, or, if you're eating a little bit more junk than your arthritis can handle, or if you aren't exercising as much as your joints would like, or whatever it is, right? Whatever, the vice is for the moment, you're not getting enough sleep, whatever have you, right? Whatever those things are, let them happen if it helps you sort of cope with the situation, but know what your limits are. I think a lot of the conversations that I've been having with fellow chronically ill people on Chronic Motivation on Instagram lately has been the level of self-awareness that being a sick person has made me. And I think it's interesting because, one of the greatest gripes that I have with a lot of the chronically ill community on social media, or at least on Instagram, is that there is such a lack of self-awareness. And again, there's a whole different topic there for another day. So tune back in for that. But, for me, what has made me able to cope and able to sort of navigate through my own health is my ability to understand who I am as a person and who I am as a sick person, and how to listen to my body and, allow myself to not be okay sometimes. And that's okay. And to be super, super honest. So, if we're using our illness as a crutch, we need to not. We need to take accountability, be accountable, be responsible. And again, if somebody else is trying to hold us accountable or being critical or criticizing us for, maybe not living up, to being our best selves, that's not necessarily going to push us in the right directions. We are the only ones that are going to be able to get us to that point. We have to be ready. So, cool off a little bit, sink into it, be a scumbag for a little while if you have to be, but know when that limit is, because if you are not the one that pulls yourself out of it, you're going to end up not pulling yourself out of it. And you really have to be careful about what that limit is. Another example of that for me is I talk about a lot on my live chats on Instagram is the fact that I never call out sick for work. I never have unexcused absences. And what I mean by that is the only time that I am not at work as a result of my chronic illness is after my infusions, and I don't refer to that as calling out sick or unexcused, because my coworkers and my manager always know about it in advance because they're planned days off. I have my treatments every 4 weeks. I always have my treatments on Saturday mornings at 8 o'clock in the morning, like clockwork, and I'm usually sick for about a week. So I typically plan to take off Monday, Tuesday, and most often Wednesday after my treatments. So I take those days as planned sick days and planned vacation days. I don't take, if I have like a head cold or anything else going on viral that's happening in my life, I go to work. And if I wake up and I have, if my arthritis is acting up or if I'm feeling achy, at the very least, I might go into work a little bit late, but I won't call out sick. And the greatest reason for that, again, is because I have to loop it back around to being super self-aware. And being super self-aware means knowing that if I get too comfortable calling out sick or too comfortable keeping my ass in bed, I'm not going to get out of bed, because ultimately I am someone who knows myself well enough to know that I'm more comfortable not going to work. I'm someone that has to go to work. I am chronically ill. I need to pay my bills. I live alone in New York City. I have a dog to take care of. I have myself to take care of. I need my medical insurance because I have obviously a ton of medical bills and a lot of medical expenses that I need to cover. There's a whole lot of responsibility, and I don't feel entitled to any of it. So, I think that it's super important to, again, know who you are, know what your limits are, know, when it's okay to sort of, let yourself just be for a little while, but also know when to kick yourself on the ass and yank yourself up and get your shit together, because you are the only one that's going to be your own best advocate. And don't be too hard on yourself. Know that it's okay to not be okay, and know when you're too not okay. Know when it's time to get it together. And obviously, if you are having issues or if you're having concerns, find some people in the chronically ill community who you feel aren't going to judge you, who have either been through similar things, whether that's me or somebody else. Doesn't have to be me, obviously. Or it doesn't even have to be somebody who's chronically ill. Find somebody that you love and trust and know who will hold you accountable, but who is not going to do it in a way that makes you feel so bad about yourself that you sink further and further into a depressive hole and puts you further away from getting it together. So, again, there's a very fine line, and balancing in that can be very, very difficult, but you can do it. And it's just really about taking it one day at a time and making sure that you set your sights on the goal, and making sure that you don't let, other people decide what you can and can't do. If there's things that you can't do, make sure you're the one that determines what that is. And not just non-chronically ill people. I also mean chronically ill people. I've been really disheartened to see on Instagram and in social media in general, the amount of people that don't know how to finish a sentence without saying that they couldn't do something because they're chronically ill. Believe it or not, I am able to watch TV without talking about my arthritis. And I am able to cook dinner without talking about my knees hurting while I'm cooking dinner. And I am able to walk my dog without talking about my arthritis hurting while I'm walking down the street. And I am able to post things on my Instagram page that aren't talking about my insomnia at 4 in the morning. There are plenty of things that are good in my life and plenty of things that are good in all of our lives that we can be focusing on. And I think when we start focusing on those things rather than focusing so much of our energy and our attention on the things that are not so good, it's a lot harder to get away from those things. So that's it. Just stay on it. Be accountable. Know yourself. Be easy on yourself. And do the best you can, because that's all you can do. And everybody has shit. This is our shit. It just happens to be ours. Don't be a victim. And you'll be just fine. I promise.